Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via Livestream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.
Welcome to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and excited to really have you back once again. We got an exciting show tonight, and definitely can't wait to bring on my guest. As you saw, it's Dale Caldwell. He's doing great things, and appreciate the opportunity to have him back on the show to really share some really valuable things about leadership and how you can become a better leader. And that's what it's all about, because that's the key to success in business, and being able to lead, influence, and really motivate your team to create the best results possible. So let me invite Dale Caldwell on, and we're going to chat a little bit with him and talking small business. Hey, Dale, how's everything going?
Hey, Andrew, how you doing?
Good. Welcome. Glad to have you on the show. We're talking. You have a lot going on this time of year, just like everybody else, and had the misfortune maybe of going to New York today.
I had a couple of meetings in the city. And the traffic is horrendous. I think people are coming in for the Christmas lights. So in order to get to your studio, I was looking forward to seeing it. It'd be an hour and a half. So I'm here sitting in my my new used car, which is the Mercedes. I love it. So it's an office anyway. So I'm happy to be here, if people don't mind the background.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. Definitely. It's great to have a chance to chat with you. You spoke recently at the Power Breakfast and really had such a great message that I wanted to really have you back on to share some of that, because not everybody could make the Power Breakfast. And also just, some key things, at the end of the day, your business can only grow as far as you're prepared to take it. So it's about gaining knowledge. Your focus on knowledge acceleration, even gaining the knowledge you need to know faster. And, that's something we all need to do. And, technology, the world's changing faster than ever before. So being able to do that is key. So yes. I'm glad to have you on here. I know you, some people on here know you, but not everybody knows who you are. So why don't you take a couple minutes to tell everybody a little bit about your background, some of the great things that you're doing, and and we'll go from there.
Well, Andrew, first, it's just an honor to be on your show. I've been on a couple of times, and I really enjoyed the Power Breakfast and really talking to that great group. And so I have the honor of being the executive director of the Rothman Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Fairleigh Dickinson University. That's one of the many hats that I wear. I also have my own consulting firm where we work with clients like Procter & Gamble and Kellogg's and others around leadership training, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And also recently, I became the pastor of Covenant United Methodist Church in Plainfield, New Jersey. And so I'm really trying to kind of build spirituality and entrepreneurship and bring them together, because I think entrepreneurship is the great equalizer. And I think it's important for all of us to either have the entrepreneurial mindset and work for somebody else, or even have our own businesses. So Andrew, it's always wonderful to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, definitely. And, you're doing so many things that, one thing that's always amazing is you're on not just a school board, but school boards, right? So talk a little bit about that.
Well, I grew up in urban areas in Roxbury and Boston and Harlem and New York, and my parents sacrificed and had an opportunity to first go to public schools, but then go to some private schools. And I went to Princeton, got my degree in economics, and then my MBA from the Wharton School in Finance, and then I got a doctorate in education administration from Seton Hall. And education is so important, and so I felt I had to give back, and so I joined in 1998 the New Brunswick Board of Education. And I'm currently the president of that board. So I've been on that board for 23 years. I had the opportunity in 2009 to be the school board member of the year in New Jersey. And I'm also president of something called the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey, which is the largest special needs school district, serving students who are on the spectrum, who are multiply disabled, and who are dealing with emotional challenges. And then I'm president of College Achieve Asbury Park, which is a charter school in Asbury Park. And so the thing is, I'm involved with all these things. And so I'm now pushing and really want to work with you to build on what you're doing, something I call coach leadership. And that the idea is that the old command and control leadership is dead. You can't order people around anymore. But now people are using what I call title leadership, that I'm the senior VP, so listen to me. But you really need to have coach leadership. And the reason I'm able to be involved in so many things is we have extraordinary superintendents. I have extraordinary staff at the Rothman Institute. I have extraordinary congregation at Covenant. And so instead of me leading and telling people what to do, I'm really more of a coach and a supporter and an encourager. And that's how I'm able to do a lot of different things, is because it's not me, it's really about the team. And so I'm really pushing that out, because that's the way that people can be much more effective, especially with this next generation of employees. You have to be focused on developing them. They have to feel you care about them and you want to develop them. So that's kind of the secret sauce, if you will, in all the things. And people say, Dale, do you sleep at all? Do you do these things? But it's really working with extraordinary people. And I'm just blessed to have that opportunity.
No, that's great. But you allow them to be extraordinary. Many people end up in an environment where they're not empowered or encouraged to be extraordinary. And what I've always found is people can and will do way more than you would ever think if you ask them, or you encourage them. So, but that's the hallmark of leadership.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to talk some about that today as well. So,
but Andrew, let me add to that, because people not only will do more than you think, but they do more than they think. If you encourage them, they have more capability. And I think everybody who I've worked with, I've gently kind of nudged to say, why not try this and do that? And so I think I've been helpful in helping them grow. And guess what? I grow by their growing. And so it's really not about me, it's about them. One of the things that the sayings that I remember is, the taller the bamboo, the more it bends. And so I'm a servant leader no matter where I am, and it's not about me. And I actually get uncomfortable when people try to build me up and say, oh, Dale, you're doing this. It's really about them. And I enjoy that. That's just kind of who I am. Okay.
No, that's excellent. And, one thing you didn't hit on, but I just want to make sure we just hit on it, is you helped develop the E-Zone, Entrepreneur Zone initiative, and several initiatives around it. And you've garnered leadership in each area of the initiative, from not just locally, but nationally. So talk a little bit about what that is and what that's all about.
Well, one of the things, and I'll talk a little later about influences, is that, my dad knew and marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. My mom was a school teacher for 50 years. And I come from a long line of successful pastors. And so I have some big shoes to fill. And just to see my dad in the civil rights movement, they accomplished a lot, but their work wasn't done. And I always tell folks, my dad was in the March on Washington for jobs and freedom. People don't realize, everybody talks about the freedom part, that Dr. King was about jobs and that economic equality is really the key. And so being involved with all these different things, it has become very clear that education, employment and entrepreneurship are the foundation. And so as you think of that, I came up with this idea called entrepreneur zones, because there's the past administration came up with these opportunity zones. And the idea is to give real estate investors discounts if they basically build up or gentrify urban communities. And so the thing about that is that those communities will be beautiful and have big buildings, but the local people will be pushed out, and the small businesses will be hurt. And so I said, well, why don't we create entrepreneur zones where we're creating an ecosystem to invest in those communities so that the entrepreneurs can grow and jobs can be created. And to my positive surprise, that both conservatives and liberals like the idea, and we were able to get it in the governor's administration in New Jersey. And so I'm heading a committee, in addition, to get people around the country to believe in this. Because if you're someone like me who really hates poverty, the only way to do this is to really utilize entrepreneurship. And you and I have talked about that, and just the amazing work you've done with entrepreneurs as a model of what we can do in entrepreneur zones around the world.
Yeah, no, I think that's tremendous, and really looking forward to continued growth of that, and enjoy being part of the process. And so definitely. So, that's a little bit of background, doing great things. So we're going to dig in to really a little bit about influence and leadership and accelerating your knowledge. But before we do that, I just want to take a second. We produced the live stream through the Small Business Pro University. So it probably makes sense to know what the Small Business Pro University is. So we're going to just take a 1-minute video, and then we'll be back with Dale, and we're going to talk about accelerating your knowledge. Sounds good? Excellent.
Do you own your business, or does it own you? Is your business growing, and are you making enough money? As a business owner, there are so many things you need to know to become more successful. Hello, my name is Andrew Frazier, the Business Growth Pro and CFO. I created the Small Business Pro University for you. Small Business Pro University has self-paced, dynamic, multimedia learning experiences created by more than 20 instructors who are business owners just like you. Small Business Pro University will empower you to become a masterpreneur by learning the secrets to creating a successful enterprise, to go from working in your business to working on your business. Take advantage of our strategic coaching program, or just simply choose the courses that you need at www.sbprou.com. We will empower you to thrive and not just survive, and make more money in any business environment.
Okay, welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05, talking small business. I've got Dale Caldwell here, and we're going to be talking about leadership and influence, and really how you can become a better leader. One of the things that you had talked about at the Power Breakfast, and I've heard it there, but I've also heard it other times. But every time I hear it, it's like so powerful. It really just, sometimes you hear stuff and you think stuff, but you don't really fully understand it. But this example sort of really lays out. So, you have a book, Strategic Influence, where you talk about, that your influences and understanding other influences allow you to be a much better leader. And, before you do anything, you got to know yourself before you can know others. So talk a little bit about, the difference between leadership and influence, and sort of how you share and help people think about it.
Well, Andrew, I often and really no matter what I'm doing, whether it's leadership training or DEI, I always try to start out with this concept. So many years ago, I like writing books. I've written 6 books, and I learn when I write. So that's kind of my education. And I was writing a book on leadership, and there are a million books on leadership, and I thought I had one of the best. But I'm an etymologist. I kind of like to study the words and their root causes. And so I looked up the definitions of leadership, command, and authority. And I found the word influence was in at least one of the definitions for each of those words surrounding leadership. And about 10 years ago, it sent me on this path to understand this thing called influence. And I discovered that it's a word hidden in plain sight, that people will say she's influential or he's influential. And what does that mean? Do they have more social media followers? Are they powerful? Are they rich? Are they attractive? And so, but then when you think about it, we do what we do, think the way we think, and accomplish what we accomplish because of influence. And the example I often use are accents, that no child in the world is born with an English accent. They can be born in London or Brooklyn or Sydney, Australia, or Birmingham, Alabama, and they develop a very different accent that often stays with them for the rest of their life. And so think about other things that are influences: our favorite sports team, our culture, our religion, who we think is attractive, our favorite food. All of those are influences. Yeah, there's some genetics in there, but it really is influences. And so the example that I often use is that the research shows that our musical tastes are developed actually for women between ages 14 and 24, and for men ages 15 to 25. And what does that mean? We can love modern music, but there's certain songs that take us back to that time when our brain was developing, when we first fell in love. And everybody who's listening in has a song that if it played right now, that it would take you back to a particular, either a painful or a wonderful memory. And so as we begin to think about leadership and think about being entrepreneurs, is that we have to look internally to understand our own influences. And so I developed this process that has, and we can talk a little later about it, 4 steps through the process. But this first step is called influence awareness. How do you understand what influences have been in your life in the past, but also the present? And then what do those influences do to help you become successful or even hold you back from becoming successful? So Andrew, I always start there. And the music analogy really kind of wakes people up to understand that they are truly products of their influence, and they can control the influences that in their life to become that much more effective.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm a big fan of movies, and especially The Matrix.
Yes.
And excited that they're coming out with the new one in a few weeks.
The new one, yes.
But, in the first one, when he's in the kitchen, that's one of the first things she says. You have to know yourself. Yeah, and, and you can't, it's not enough to just know the path. You have to walk the path.
You have to walk
so now once people know more about their influence, how do they go and walk the path? How do you use that to be a better leader?
And so the second step in the process, so it's influence awareness. So the second step in the process is what I call influence impact. So what is the impact of my influences? I often, Hogan Lovells was one of my big clients. They're the 8th largest law firm in the world, and I did training in 8 of their offices around the country. And so I created this scenario of Bob Yeller. I've created a name called Bob Yeller because they have some partners that are still the command and control, old school, yelling at people, embarrassing people, and those things. And so Bob Yeller's influences were he grew up in a household where everybody yelled at each other, kind of a term of endearment. They just naturally yelled at each other, and when they're angry or when they're happy, and they did that. And then you look at the influence impact of Bob Yeller. And so Bob Yeller goes to a law firm or a business, and he's yelling at folks, and he's not getting promoted because of that yelling. Or you have Sue Quiet or Ted Quiet on the opposite, where they were taught as growing up that that kids only speak when they're spoken to. And so Ted, quiet, goes to work, and Ted doesn't say anything in meetings and is overlooked for promotions. So those are two examples. So we all need to look inside to say, how are our influences helping us or holding us back? And so often we feel resigned to that. And I'm always going to be a yeller, or I'm always going to be quiet. And we're not. We just have to make sure we have the influences necessary to take it to the next step. So the next step in the process is called influence management. And this is where the Small Business Pro University, Andrew, and your consulting comes in, is once you know your influences, once you know the impact of those influences, then you know, okay, how do I develop them? How do I become the better person? How do I become the better entrepreneur? How do I become the better leader? And then depending on what those influences, the impact of those influences, the prescription is designed, custom designed for the person. So I'm a certified executive coach. And so, a lot of times coaching is needed. For Bob Yeller, we have to coach him to realize, Bob, develop more empathy. Understand how your yelling impacts other people. Or Ted, we're being quiet in meetings. How do you expect to get promoted? And then you work with them. Or Joe Entrepreneur, the Small Business Pro University is going to help you get it to the next step. And then the final step in the process is what I call influence maximization. And that every successful relationship, whether it's a business relationship or an individual or a marriage relationship, has three elements. The first is credibility, that you have to be credible for people to even listen to you. But it's not enough just to be credible. You really have to be creative, that you have to be interesting. You have to really connect with people. But that's not enough. The third is to connect with them. You have to connect with their influences. And the reality is as you alluded to, Andrew, you can't connect with other people's influences until you know your own influences. And so once you know your own influences, if you can, whenever a sales or an interview doesn't go well, one of those three elements is missing: credibility, creativity, or connection. So when you develop your own influences, you become more empathetic with other people's influences. And so you're able to connect with them in a deeper way. And so that's part of this process. And really, Small Business Pro University, it really helps along that process.
Okay. No, I mean, that's outstanding. I mean, definitely, you come at it at a really clear way. And, one way I try and help people that I'm coaching and working with is through reading. Mm-hmm. And, not just yours, but Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
Because he's a master, and it's not like it's rocket science. Right. But, by being able to really understand yourself and be able to connect with others, mm-hmm. That's a huge key to success. And a lot of people don't really do a lot of simple things that could really make them so much more effective and successful.
Well, Andrew, what Dale Carnegie's saying and what Dale Caldwell is saying is common sense, but common sense isn't that common these days, as they say. And so, so we just go about our life and we're just kind of going ahead, and we don't think about ourselves. We don't think about influences. We don't think about those things. The other thing that I say is that people, we buy into this myth of the self-made woman or the self-made man, that I did it all myself. I'm successful because of me. And no human being's ever done that. And so we need to understand that there are influences. And I use this when I'm working on trying to help people understand the importance of eliminating poverty, is that people who are poor, they're not less than, they just had influences. They were born in the wrong zip code. And so you can't really build yourself up. And so it's important to really understand and think about the influences in our lives, and not be ashamed that I've had good influences, but really celebrate that and to do more with those influences than you would have otherwise.
Yep. And and you have to be flexible. One thing that I ran into, when you grow up, within your family, you have certain traditions. So one thing was, anybody older than me, right. I called them Mr. or Mrs. Right, but right. I got into corporate America and I was like, oh, this is Mr. So-and-so. Right, and they're like, no, I'm Bob. But it took me a minute to be able to say, Okay, Bob. But you have to also be able to fit into the culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's different norms. So, definitely that's a part of leadership and influence as well.
Yes.
So, you mentioned that common sense isn't necessarily that common. One of my friends used to say, like, a person is smart, but people are stupid. So, and not to, but sometimes like groupthink and other stuff
Yes.
really leads to bad decisions.
Yes.
So really being able to think through what you're doing in terms of you, but also understanding its impact on others is important. So
vitally important. Vitally important.
Yep. So I think that's key. Now, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff, but one thing that you do through the Rothman Institute, and you're executive director there out of Fairleigh Dickinson University, that's the website.
Yep.
You recently had the Family Business of the Year awards. So definitely talk a little bit about family business and why it's so important.
Well, Andrew, first, thank you for coming to our event at the Glen Ridge Country Club, in Glen Ridge, right near Montclair. And so every year, this is our 29th annual Family Business of the Year Awards, and so the Rothman Institute has been in the region in the Northeast one of the leaders in really helping to advise, support, and celebrate family businesses. And people don't realize that family businesses are about 84% of the businesses around the world. And that family businesses not only help the family, they are really the best employers out there, that they really help to support the family, the families of their employees, the non-family members, their community, and other things. And so our Family Business of the Year Award, we identify the under $10 million in sales, over $10 million in sales, and new family business, who is the best and really most community-centric each year. And we have our luncheon, and Andrew, as you saw, there are so many amazing businesses in virtually every industry. And so to really talk to those folks, and people don't realize how hard these people work, that there's an assumption that if you have a family business, you have a silver spoon and your life is easy and so on. But it's really the furthest from the truth. And that these folks work hard, they're committed, and family businesses are as American a tradition and really as global a tradition as there is. And so we are really going out of our way to try to support family businesses, to advocate for family businesses, and to really to advocate for family business, and to really try to grow family businesses around New Jersey. And so this event, which has been very, very successful, it was really sold out, is one way. The other way is that we created something called Family Business Week, and really trying to encourage people around the world. It's the fourth week in October, the same week as our event. We're encouraging people around the world to identify and support a family business. And so as we go through this Thanksgiving holiday, as we go throughout this Christmas holiday, as we go throughout 2022, I encourage you to go to a family business, a family restaurant, a family grocery store, a family, a family diner, and support them. And so why would you support them? Because the dollars that you spend with family businesses go back into your community. And also the taxes, if we want to reduce taxes in New Jersey, we want to support those businesses which increase the rateable. So the Family Business of the Year has just been so near and dear to our heart that we are the leading advocates for family businesses. And we can talk a little bit about our veterans program as well, if you like.
Okay. Well, while we're on family business, I think one thing that's important is it's more and more challenging each generation of the family that you move through. And, a lot of family businesses, sometimes the kids aren't as interested in the business. Even more so these days, because there's a lot of interesting stuff that you can go out and do. But, when you see successful family businesses, what are some of the hallmark signs of what will help a family business be more successful? Because mostly all businesses, small businesses, are family businesses or may be family businesses in the future.
Well, Andrew, you as you know, I do 2 TV shows, one on RV and television. Both of them on RV and television. One is called Family Business World, where I interview family business or people that advise family businesses, and the other is Entrepreneur State of Mind. You've been on my show and you've done a great job. And so one of the things when I talk to family businesses, it really is interesting. Every CEO that has been, their dad or mom or grandparents started the business, everyone that is proud to be CEO started out sweeping the floors, doing menial labor when they were kids. And what I've learned is that when you do that, the young people start to value the business much more. But in those families where the person starts out as a senior VP or some cushy job, they don't value the business and they're more likely to sell the business or run the business into the ground. And so it's a real interesting study on influence, on how important it is to really start people young and let them understand the importance of that business. The other thing that's obviously very prevalent in family businesses is conflict. Is that, families, as we go to Thanksgiving, I will guarantee that there will be some conflict in some of the people's, Thanksgiving, but it's out of love. And so families have conflict. They're dealing with influences of the past that so and such happened years and years ago. And then you carry that over into the business. So one of the things we do is we work with them to try to get family members to work together and focus on what's the best thing for the business and the family. So we do a lot of work around that. But that makes family businesses even more challenging. But they really are the bread and butter. One of the things of the economy, and one of the things that I often say is that politicians don't seem to understand that. If every politician in America, in the world, had a family business or a small business and had to make payroll, the politics would be very different, because people would understand how hard it is to really, oftentimes you go without eating yourself as an owner so that you can pay your people, because you can't afford to lose those people. And so there's some real misunderstandings about the importance of family and small and local business to jobs and to the economy.
Yeah, no, definitely. They used to say, I can't remember the president who said, maybe it was Silent Cal Coolidge, said the business of America is business.
Right.
And, and it's true. I mean, family business is, just small business is the bedrock of what makes America great, because a lot of places you can't go into business for yourself, and you don't have the ability to move within socioeconomic levels, and business is one of the best ways to be able to do that, and it helps to level the playing field in certain ways. Whereas you may not have the same opportunities in other fields or working for someone else, but as a business owner, the only thing that can hold you back on a certain level is you, or at least you have the ability to chart your destiny and make things fairer for you. So,
but Andrew, let me build on that, because I would say that if Dr. King were alive today, he would be all in on entrepreneurship, on urban local entrepreneurship. And the reason is that if you're really looking at ending poverty and creating equity within society, government doesn't have enough money to really do that in urban communities. Nonprofits don't have enough money to do that. The only way to do this is to really empower, really create entrepreneur zones, to really empower local businesses to really grow, create jobs, and help to help to empower people in the community. So it's really a no-brainer to do this. And one of the things that I also say is, in America, it makes no sense to have poverty because, people don't have to care about poor people, but when poor people have money, rich people become richer. So it's fundamentally, we're holding people back, everybody back, by really not looking how to create entrepreneurial businesses in local economically challenged communities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, I mean, definitely. And yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily having to go in and do something for people. It's just like you talked about, you can do so many things because you empower people.
Yes.
And you give them the resources and the knowledge that they need so that because they're going to know the answers to they're there every day. Someone from the outside can't even have half the understanding of how to solve their problems.
Right.
That's someone within the community. But a lot of times there's a disconnect in resources or knowledge or leadership abilities that that could be filled. And entrepreneurship is one of the best ways to do that.
Yep.
So yeah, no, definitely. So, we've been chatting about some good things. I mentioned that you spoke at the recent Power Breakfast, and some of the things on the topic were here. But not everybody knows what the Power Breakfast is or has even been to the Power Breakfast. So I just have a quick video on the Power Breakfast. And then also we have set the date for our next one, which is January 28th. And we're actually going to do a full day conference. Wow. So very excited. And I'm actually going to release our speakers. So I'm going to show a quick video, and then I'll just introduce the speakers for the upcoming one, and and then we'll get back on the leadership topic. So here's a little bit about the Power Breakfast.
If you are looking to increase revenues, improve profitability, and or obtain financing for your business, you need to check out the Power Breakfast and Small Business Pro conferences.
My name is Andrew Frazier. One of the things we're here to do is supercharge your day.
Today's Power Breakfast has really been a phenomenal experience. I think it's exactly what business owners need, some true guidance of people who are genuine and really are leading them in the true direction of business growth and expansion.
The Power Breakfast is so important for the entrepreneurial community because it gives the various business people who come together an opportunity to interact and also do some business.
These events, hosted by Andrew Frazier, President and COO of Small Business Like a Pro, will supercharge your day.
Okay, so that's the Power Breakfast. A little bit about it, and this is our 10th year. So Power Breakfast, we've been doing it for 10 years. I think, Dale, we met right around when I did the first Power Breakfast.
Yes, yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
it's you just never know where things are going to go. So definitely each one we really bring in a business thought leader, expert in their area to share some great things. And this upcoming one, we have a Power Breakfast, and then we also have a Power Lunch. So since it's full day, so our Power Breakfast speaker is going to be John Kennedy, CEO of New Jersey Manufacturing Experience Program, and outstanding leader. He has really his organization is probably the leading one in the country, and has grown and developed under his tenure. He's been there, and just his leadership skills, his capabilities. I'm sure he'll have some tremendous things to share about becoming a leader. So looking forward to have John speak as well. And then our Power Lunch speaker is Precious Williams, the killer pitch master. So she's super powerful. She's on fire right now. She's speaking for like, what was it? Not Google, but major corporations like not Citibank, MasterCard had her on one of their commercials. She's won many pitching awards, really powerful in talking about really how to communicate in a way that gets results. And for business owners and entrepreneurs, that's key, because your communication skills and your ability to communicate effectively and influence people based on what you're saying is key. So, and plus she just has a huge energy that she brings with her. So really looking forward to having her as a speaker as well. And it's really all about helping develop skills, leadership for entrepreneurs and business owners, as well as developing their knowledge about best practices and useful things that they can, useful knowledge that they can put to work, and then creating relationships, building connections, and networking. So, so back to some of the things that we're talking about. You've had several businesses, and you've worked in a lot of different businesses, and you've probably seen great leaders, and you've seen not so great leaders. Give me an example of someone that you worked with and what made them, really great leader to you.
Well, I think early on, let me talk first about someone that again, influences aren't always positive; they can be negative. And so there was at Deloitte, there was I guess he's a senior manager, who luckily he wasn't my manager, but he would have the people ask someone on his team to do a project, like write something or write a memo, and he would stand over their shoulder as they were writing. So you talk about command and control, and that always that rubbed me. Nice guy, but rubbed me the wrong way, and he turned off. More people left because they worked with him. And so you start to really think about, that and that, and people still do that today. But the leaders, I think of, in high school, my tennis coach, I was number one on the tennis team and played tennis. Bill Ewan, who has been a good friend of mine, was just a wonderful model of this coach leadership, that he really didn't criticize directly. He said, Dale, what do you think you should do? How should you improve your game? How should you be successful? And I've worked with leaders, in various companies. I was at Scholastic. I was Deputy Commissioner, Department of Community Affairs. I was, I worked in the nonprofit sector with the Newark Alliance. And Tom Kane was my boss. My bosses were Art Ryan, the CEO of Prudential, Tom Kane, the former governor of New Jersey, and the guy named Ray Chambers, who used to own the Nets and the Devils. And they founded the organization. And their leadership style, all three of them were really coach leaders, that they weren't as direct. Now, they had people below them that were a little more command and control than they were. But you saw how people who were extraordinarily successful, they know enough to know what the weeds are. So they jump into the weeds when they need to, when there's a problem. But they also trust people, and they trust people to rise. And if people make a mistake, they don't jump down their throat. They say, well, what do you think happened? What could you do better? And those of you who are parents who try to be the best parents, it's so tempting to really jump when your child does something wrong, to jump on them instead of really saying, what could you do better? Why did this happen? And that has a much more sustainable impact on someone. And just real quick, Andrew, the reason I'm really pushing this is, so when I became certified and I went through this coach certification process, which we actually are starting one at Fairleigh Dickinson University, I was a consultant for most of my career. And so I went into this coaching, and I was thinking, okay, when I'm coaching people, I'm going to tell them what to do. They need to do this, that, and that. But they said, no, you're a coach. Instead, what you do is you say, well, Andrew, what do you think you should do? And how do you think you could do better? And I did that. And I felt like, well, I didn't really do anything for you. But these folks would say, this is the best session I had. You really helped me find it, because they found it for themselves. And that really taught me a lesson about how important coaching is, helping people find the answers to them for themselves, because they have the answers. And people are much more extraordinary than you think or they think. And so that's an important message going forward.
Yeah, no, I think that's hugely important. But for a lot of business owners, it's really difficult because, a lot of times you're like the smartest person in terms of knowing the most about your business and every area of your business, and you're used to doing it. So, you're used to going a mile a minute. So it's hard to allow someone else to do things and then, see them not do it as well as you do it. But, when, mentioning the Masterpreneur Playbook, and, there's steps that you go through and you have to evolve as a business owner. And, if your business is going to grow, you have to evolve to the next level, because otherwise you're going to stifle everyone below you. Right. So, one of the biggest things, work on people is helping them go from working in their business to working on their business. Right. Is one piece, because you have to really first start to be able to delegate. Yep. And then the other one is, that's difficult because you go from, working on everything to really focusing on the future. Yeah. And not just the day-to-day or the week-to-week. And if you're not doing that, who's doing it?
Right.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't see. And just because someone's not going to do something as well as you, over time they're going to get better. Right. And surprisingly, they might end up doing it better than you.
Right.
But that frees you up to do do higher level, more valuable stuff. And then the next level beyond that is even harder, because you really have to go from being a manager to an executive.
Right.
And really your job as an executive is to coach your managers. Yep. And empower them. And the worst thing you could do is micromanage your managers.
Yes. Because
they're not going to stay, or they're not going to manage, and they're going to be like a supervisor. So you're paying them a whole bunch not to do what you hired them to do.
Right. Right.
So, talk a little bit about, you talked about coaching, developing people. What are some of the roadblocks that you have to walk people or help people overcome?
Well, there's one roadblock that is particularly, is really the biggest enemy of coach leadership, and that's time. What happens is people say, well, Dale, this is great. It makes sense. I want to do that. I just don't have time. I need to say, Joe, do this, Ted, do that, Fred, do that, Sue, do this. I got to do that. And so, so I often say, well, you don't have time not to do that, because you're right. In the short term, you don't have that time. But if you don't empower them, as you said, they're not going to be able to grow when your business grows. And so you need to do that. But so many business leaders make the mistake of politicians. And the one thing, and again, I'm one that really says that big businesses, that government should really be spending less support in big businesses and really supporting small businesses. But there are things that you can learn from big businesses. One of those things is that the CEOs try to find successors that are better than them. Well, why do they do that? Well, they do that because their pension is at risk. The trouble with politics is that leaders, oftentimes governors or mayors, don't want people that are the best there because they'll compete with them. So part of our problem in politics is a leadership problem, is that people are so focused on being the big fish that they don't put the best people around them. And I've seen governor after governor after governor across the country put young, inexperienced people in because they didn't want to give some older, experienced people a chance because they may run against them. And so you really have to understand that if you want to have a successful business and a sustainable excellence, you need to look for the best people possible. And again, in politics, I say that, so often we focus on the person we're voting for. And that's, and in some ways that doesn't matter as much as who is that person we're voting for going to hire? Who is their cabinet going to be? So as we begin to think about that, we really need to understand that as a leader, you will be defined in history by the quality of people that are around you. And people don't think of that because they're all stuck in short term. So time is the number one enemy of coach leadership.
Yes. And, a lot of times, I have to talk to business owners about, you always have something important and urgent that you could be doing. But those things aren't the things that move your business forward. It's the things that are important and not urgent. And that's really around developing your team and other stuff. But what I found is, if you step back and do that within short order, things start to run themselves, and
Right.
and people develop. It's not easy. You have to change and be different, but that's the only way you're going to be able to move your business forward, because you can't do it yourself, and you need to have a strong team. So, but that doesn't, that only happens if you plan to do it and you implement your plan. But like the Matrix again, Merovingian said, if you don't ever have time, then how do you make, what was it? Who has time? But if you don't ever make any time, how will you ever have any time?
Exactly.
So it can seem like a catch-22, but you have to do that. And this is the perfect time of year, to step back. You have the holidays, you have to take a break sometimes.
Right.
And this is a good time to spend time with family, do things that are different, but also think about kind of where you want to go. You want to develop your plan for 2022.
Well, Andrew, I take it a step further, and I often tell folks that you should write your autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
That you should really, not necessarily for publication, but begin to write your life story so that you know yourself. And everybody I've talked to, I have a friend, Nikayla, I think, who's watching, who started writing that and just found it to be so valuable. And especially as you go around Thanksgiving, because you're interacting with family members and you're remembering good and bad things. But what that does is that can help you understand your passions, what you love doing, what you don't like doing. And so as a leader, it's important, as I said earlier, to know yourself, know your influences. And once you feel comfortable and you know your influences, you become that much more secure with really empowering other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think insecurity is really born out of people who don't really understand themselves and understand their influence.
Yep. And, definitely, I always look at it as you have to see it before you can do it.
Yeah.
Because, if you don't envision what where you're going, it's hard to get there. Because you don't have that clarity, and you want to think it out to make sure you're going the right way to get where you ultimately want to be.
Exactly.
So that's huge. So coming up on 2022, it's important to take that time to do important things that aren't urgent. As you know, one of the things that we're launching actually right now is the Small Business Pro Certification Program.
Right.
And that's a great way to do that. Really helping people to be able to learn how to work on your business and not in your business.
Right.
And to be able to learn best practices.
Yes.
And useful knowledge so that you can progress, accelerate your business knowledge. because your business can only go as far as you're prepared to take it, and being able to continually learn and accelerate. So definitely put a link in the chat, but this is a great time to learn how to become a small business pro. And by doing that, you become more focused, confident, and profitable by learning how to work on your business. And definitely I'll put info in the chat. Our program's going to be open until next week in terms of a new cohort that we're going to be starting in early December. So definitely, it's a 2 to 3 month program, and every week I do live virtual training and enrichment around, really professional curriculum. So, so definitely have more about that. So, an hour disappears really fast.
Yes, it does. Yes.
So, we're coming up towards the end. But what I like to have guests do is really, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but what are 3 things that everyone could take away from what we talked about and implement immediately within their business and their life as a way to kind of move forward? So, so take a sec, think about that, and and then we'll close out after that. But definitely, it's great having you as a guest as always, and I think that definitely what you're sharing. So, what do you think people should take away from what we're doing today?
Well, firstly, Andrew, just I thank you so much for being on your show, and it's just, I appreciate your friendship and support over the years, and we've been a good team together, and I'm looking forward to doing some big things going forward. But first, number one, and obviously I start with influences. So number one is you need to really think about your influences and be very honest about how you've been influenced, what your influence weaknesses are, what your influence strengths are, because you have to start with yourself. It's great to read the best books in the world, but you won't get the most out of them until you understand yourself. The second thing is, once you understand yourself, understand your passions. Where do you want to go? One of the things I ask people is that when you're 90 and you're looking back on your life, what is it that you want to have accomplished? And really begin to think about, what is it? Why am I doing this? Why am I on this earth? How am I, why do I want to have my own business, and what impact do I want to have? And the third thing is to really internalize this idea of coach leadership with your children, coach leadership with your spouse, coach leadership with your employees, coach leadership even with your boss, to begin to think about this idea of really helping to empower people and help them develop themselves. And guess what? What will happen is they'll have even more respect for you because you've helped them grow as individuals. So those are really the 3 things, Andrew, that I hope people will walk away with from this talk. And again, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Those are powerful things, and appreciate you coming on. We had some good comments from the people who have joined us, and at this time of year, before we close out, definitely want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, but also a safe Thanksgiving. The holidays are great times, but also, a lot of unfortunate things happen. So it's important to be extra safe and just to look out for that. So, definitely wishing you a happy Thanksgiving, and, look forward to continuing to collaborate, hang out for a sec, and I'll close things out. So, once again, just want to thank everybody for joining us once again this evening, or joining us, through the live video recording. I just put in the chat, basically info. I just did a video series on how to work on your business so you can become more focused, confident, and profitable. So encourage you to check that out. And as well, looking forward to next week's show. And next week, actually, we're going to have a blast from the past. We're going to have Arthur Jones, who actually we started the show back over a year ago. He's going to be back, and we're going to be talking about how to really be able to work on your business successfully. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the strategies that we've laid out, and hope that you can be here, because these are some of the things that can help you be prepared for next weekend. So thanks. Just want to thank everyone for tuning in. And really at the end of the day, one of the most important things is the more you know, the faster you grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.